In the year 2018, I decided to go get my MBA. I was working as a software engineer for a large tech company, and I saw in front of me three different options if I wanted to accelerate my career. One was to become an engineering expert and eventually become a principal engineer or a staff engineer. The second option was to become a management expert and eventually become a manager or a managing director or a vice president or a CEO even. The third option was to completely quit corporate life and pursue something drastically different, like a YouTube channel or a startup or a small business. The third option was the most appealing to me, but I was in my mid-20s and I was most insecure about it. And I thought I did not have any skills or the intelligence or the IQ to start something on my own. Whatever option I chose, I felt stuck in my career and I felt like I needed additional skills to grow. An MBA program promised me these skills, like becoming an expert in finance or marketing or economics and so on. Additionally, it was COVID and I felt really bored in the evening times, and the MBA program felt like a way for me to satisfy my intellectual curiosity, to learn something new, and also find new friendships and new relationships. At this time, a lot of prominent Indian Americans or immigrants from India were becoming successful, navigating both the technical and the business world. Satya Nadella became the CEO of Microsoft. Sundar Pichai became the CEO of Google. Indra Nooyi was also already a CEO of Pepsi. And all of these people were extremely technical, but they also had a business degree. And so I felt like if I just followed in their footsteps and did the same thing they did, I might also become a CEO one day. So the business school advertises itself as a way to pivot your career, or a way to advance your career, or a way to launch an entrepreneurial venture. To be fair, I think the first point, which was to advance your career, might actually be relevant in the year 2018, but it is not relevant today. In the year 2018, the business school did give you a brand name, and adding that to your resume would signal to the world that you have knowledge in finance and accounting and marketing that other people don't have. But in the year 2024, you could get the knowledge and the signal on your resume through other ways. There are courses on Coursera or even on YouTube taught by the best schools, including Harvard, which will teach you each of the specific skills you learn in business school in a much better manner. I was also blindsided by the second claim, which was in the business school provides a way to quickly pivot your career. And I experienced this myself when I graduated. I briefly considered pivoting into becoming a managerial consultant or a strategy consultant at a company like McKinsey. And when I interviewed for them, I was told in no uncertain terms that I had all the knowledge and the theoretical information from the business school, but I had no experience. So I would be eligible for a job as a consultant one, which is an entry-level job, but not parachute my way into becoming a senior consultant just because I was a senior engineer. Also, degrees like the business school and the MBA becoming less and less valid, even for companies like McKinsey or other strategy consulting or investment banking companies. And they're increasingly looking for portfolios proving that you have the knowledge and the work experience. So if you work on a project over the weekend, that would be more valuable than going to school in the evenings to get an MBA. Looking back in 2024, there are certain things I did not like about the business school, especially what mindset I was fostered to have. So one of the things about the business school is that a lot of teachers have a lot of technical knowledge, but not necessarily the work experience to prove their technical knowledge. As an example, in the entrepreneurial class, you would be taught by a professor who was an expert in marketing or had gotten a PhD in entrepreneurship, serving other companies who were startups, for example, but that person would not necessarily be somebody who had started his own company. The second reason is it encourages behavior of people just parachuting in and assuming ownership of companies. And this is something I have learned as I've become more political, and I have realized that the business school was originally started for the purpose of scaling a business. The idea was, in legal terms, the separation of ownership and control. And separation of ownership and management is the idea that the owners of the corporation are separate from the individuals who run and manage the day-to-day business. This is called the principal agent problem. So the person who founds a startup and who invests all his sweat and tears into the startup will eventually be incentivized to step aside from by a professional CEO who would be interested in scaling the startup. And the business school sort of encourages this behavior. And because of this incentivization, it encourages the managerial class and the bureaucracy we see in society today, which inhibits R&D and innovation. And another reason I regret going to business school is that there is very less diversity of thought. And this I felt after taking a lot of case studies. So the business schools use what is called the case method. And in this case method, the students are presented with real world business problems and asked how they would solve it. After analyzing the problem, working through it individually, and discussing as a class, students are then told how the real scenario plays out. But then if you observe the class from the outside, all the conversations are very unanimous. And I felt as if there was no dissent allowed on something which was out of the box. And as I'm trying to start my own company, it feels like out of the box thinking is pretty crucial to building a company. Example which is popular in startup Silicon Valley is that the Airbnb founders did not just follow the hotel blueprint to start Airbnb. They kind of had to think out of the box. They had to have a lot of unconventional thinking to start something which other people would think is crazy. My perspective of the MBA became very clear when I visited India a couple of years ago. There are a lot of small businesses like grocery stores have owners who did not really go to business school. So the question becomes, are you interested in using the business school to just advance in your career, or are you interested in doing something brand new? And I'm here to tell you that if you want to advance in your career, there are so many courses on YouTube and other platforms which will enable that. And increasingly, like I mentioned before, a lot of companies looking for your portfolio and your work experience and how good of a job you've done in your job than a piece of paper showing that you've gone to business school. And of course, it is very expensive and it can take time away from your day job. So it's important for you to think about that. That's all I had for this video. And I would be putting all the links of people I learned from even while I was in business school. And that's the funny part for me. When I was taking the valuation exams in business school, I realized I did not learn a lot from my classes and ended up looking at YouTube to kind of augment my knowledge. So I would like to end this video by saying, why not just start there and learn on yourself? And I'll be including all the links I learned from